If I had a nickel for every time someone said that this was a bad game, I'd have a couple bucks. That sucked. Hey everyone, I'm Shemp, and welcome back to another Sonic video, because that's why you keep coming back. Not because of anything else I do on the channel, it's just for Sonic stuff. It's no big deal. Please help me. Now, it's no surprise that this game isn't held to a higher degree like most other Sonic games, which is a small list comparatively, because, you know. Now, look, I get it. I really do. You know, on paper, what if Sonic, but he had a gun? You know, sounds like a punchline to a joke, and it could definitely be seen that way. And I agree. I totally get it. It's just a ridiculous concept. But here's the thing. I've been kind of sitting on this take for a while now, and I think that the people who, you know, completely wrote off this game, and there's a lot of them, may have actually missed the point of what it was trying to do. So today, I'm going to defend Shadow the Hedgehog. But I'm not going to pretend that it's a great game and that it's a misunderstood masterpiece. No, nothing like that. But I'm here to argue that the instincts behind it were correct. The things it added to the Sonic series actually mattered. And that Sonic X Shadow Generations, a game that almost everybody loved, quietly proved the whole thing right. Welcome. Let's get into it. Okay, so for those of you who haven't played the game, which is actually a lot of you, believe it or not, especially nowadays, allow me to describe what the game is, how it works, and all that stuff, because it seems like a lot of the online criticism that I see nowadays is primarily from people who have like a vibe-based understanding of the game rather than a mechanical one. So the basic gameplay is standard Sonic fare. You know, you run fast, you collect rings, you jump on enemies, Shadow has the homing attack, all of that is there. But layered on top of that is this mission structure per level, where you get to choose a hero, a dark, and a neutral objective. And the objective that you complete determines what path you take and what ending you get. And yes, I said which ending. Because of how this system branches off, there are a total of 326 different paths you can take, with a total of 10 endings. And once you get all 10 endings, you unlock the true ending, which, kind of makes the other ones seem pointless, because the true ending was technically considered the canon ending at the time. But I don't really see it as pointless, I see it more as like, those endings are there for people who wanted like a specific version of Shadow, or wanted to believe that their choices made their version of Shadow. So, like, at least it meant something to someone. And at the end of the day, isn't that what you want an art form to do, is just connect with someone? Regardless of how bad the art is, if it connects to someone, you did your job. And on top of that, Shadow can pick up weapons, which are guns, primarily. And then there's some like alien tech you can do, like the toilet bowl one, and you can also pick up like traffic signs and start swinging that shit around like a sword. And the game presents it completely seriously, which is its own thing. I don't even know if I can show that one. Whether you hate it or love it, you cannot deny that this image looks beyond ridiculous. Like, if you're gonna give a character like this a gun, at least make it kind of like fit the series, like when Mario and co got guns, they were just funny little cannon things, it fit. It didn't seem like too off-put, Shadow is literally holding an MP5A3. That's a real gun. That is a firearm. But this is the game. That's all it is. And I think once you actually, look at the pieces that are on the table, the question of why did they make this becomes a lot more interesting than, oh, this is so stupid. Why do people play this? This is dumb. That's what you sound like. Now, I'm going to be fair, because there are criticisms of this game that need to be addressed, and I'm going to talk about them before I start swinging the other way. So I want to make sure that people know I'm not just trying to glaze it. Like, this is the best game ever. Oh my God. This is so cool. Oh, look at him. Oh, I want to kiss him. The gunplay is not great, at all. The aiming, if you could call it that, it's insanely bad. Shadow does not feel great whenever he's holding a weapon. Like it's just based on the trajectory of where he's aiming, like where his physical body is. There's no ADS. You can't like look down sights and then start shooting. You just have to kind of like put him in the direction you want to shoot and then hope that it hits whatever you're wanting to hit, and not hit the thing that you're not supposed to hit. You see where this is kind of confusing? It's a lot. And not only that, you know, the enemy variety isn't really that interesting, and some of the missions ask you to destroy a specific number of things in a level, but they don't tell you where they are. My friend Dylan and I, if you've been a fan of this channel for a little bit recently, you would have seen Dylan, emotivation.store. You know, it's pretty cool. So we spent like half an hour trying to look for these bombs on this one stage on stream, and the thing is, it's a linear level, and there are not many places to look. The problem here is that the mission design forgets that this is a Sonic game, a genre defined by momentum and speed, and then it asks you to stop and hunt around for something. Those things are in conflict, and the game doesn't always resolve that gracefully. Now, when you're not wielding a gun, Shadow does have like a, you know, standard like 1-2, combo that actually does fuck all. Like it's beyond useless. Like just touching the enemy is enough to throw him back. Oh my God, what was that? What? The story is also genuinely difficult to follow, especially on a first playthrough, because if you play through once without understanding, you know, how important the branching system is, you'd probably land on one ending, walk away confused, not really have a drive to go back and play it, and then you assume that the narrative is just bad. It's not, to an extent, but it requires investment that the game doesn't always communicate clearly. And yes, the dialogue. There are lines in this game that are rough. At times, it can be seen as, you know, tongue-in-cheek, you know, we're in on the joke, you know. And other times, it just doesn't come off right because of the presentation. What's that? Shadow the Hedgehog from the children video game series Sonic the Hedgehog? We have to kill the president? Now, those criticisms are real. I'm not pretending that they're not. They're insanely valid. But here's what I actually think is happening when people bring them up. You know, there's a common misconception that Sega just randomly decided to, you know, make the game dark and edgy, like for no reason. Like someone just ran into a boardroom meeting and said, dude, what if Sonic but like guns? And then everyone just nodded and walked out. Like, all right, guys. But look at what was happening at the gaming industry around and even after that time. Fortnite switched from a co-op survival game to a battle royale after the success of PUBG. Then Call of Duty followed the same path after Fortnite blew up. Sonic Unleashed incorporated hack and slash combat because of popular games at the time like God of War and Devil May Cry. Assassin's Creed Origins shifted to more of an RPG system similar to how The Witcher 3 did. Final Fantasy 15 shifted to an open world real-time combat game, also similar to The Witcher. Tomb Raider rebooted to play more similarly to Uncharted. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order adopted the combat and level progression of Dark Souls. Even back in the day, Jak 2 adopted the pseudo-open world aspect of GTA. Sometimes these changes work out for the better, and other times, you get Shadow the Hedgehog. In 2004 and 2005, and you know, the area adjacent to it, edgy and mature were not just like trends in the entertainment world, they were like market signals. So like going back to gaming, for example, in America, the rating system for games is known as the ESRB. So the M rating, or the mature rating, those games around that time were driving sales. Like the demographic of gaming was shifting from what it was like the previous generation, even the one before that. People wanted darker content. We had Halo, we had GTA, we had Devil May Cry, God of War got insanely crazy. The industry was getting the message. Sega looked at Shadow, a character that they already built around the questions of, identity and loss and moral ambiguity, and thought, this is our version of that. And not for nothing, like they weren't wrong that Shadow could hold it. The weird thing is that if you swap out the guns for literally any other mechanic, the thematic core of the game is completely legitimate. Shadow doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know if his memories are real. He has to decide across 326 different paths who he actually wants to be. That's not a shallow premise. That's a character-driven story dressed in the clothes of that era. Now, here's where I kind of want to push back on something specific, because it gets brought up every time this game is discussed online. People talk about Shadow 05 like Sega learned nothing from it. Like it was just a weird detour in the series, and they kind of swept it under the rug and learned nothing from it and carried on. But that's not accurate. This game introduced things that stayed in the Sonic series long after people stopped talking about it. Like the rings, for example. In every game before this, if you got hit, you lost all of your rings, like every single one. And you had to scramble to grab one again before you get hit again, otherwise you lose a life. Shadow the Hedgehog changed that. When you take damage here, you only lose 10 rings. 10. That's it. They bounce around in a circle around you, so you can pick them back up again if you want. And it sounds small. It sounds like a whole nothing burger, but it fundamentally changes the feel of the game. It makes difficult sections feel just a little bit more fair, instead of being like super punishing and feel like you can't do anything about it. And that design philosophy, the getting hit once doesn't completely reset your health back to zero whenever you're in a hard section like a boss, that is something that the series revisited in different forms ever since. It made the rings feel like a health bar, if anything. It made it feel like a normal health bar in like any other game. But there's little rings you pick up. Shadow introduced a heavy emphasis on combat to progress through the level, and that emphasis kind of paved the way for the Werehog sections in Sonic Unleashed and the multi-hit combo system in Sonic Frontiers. It shifted the series from just get to the goal to engage with the enemy to proceed. And yes, some games did it in the past, like Sonic Adventure and all that stuff, but like not to this extent. This game was also the first game in the series to introduce high-fidelity CGI cutscenes by big names in the industry, like Blur Studios and Marza. And because of them getting involved with Shadow the Hedgehog, that's the reason we have that amazingly animated intro in Sonic Unleashed. That's them. That's because of this game. Not to mention that this is actually the first Sonic game to introduce the 4Kids English voice cast from the anime. So the transition from the original cast in the games to the new ones at the time, that happened here. So like it or not, that's a huge footnote in the Sonic series that belongs to this game. Okay, you get it. So now I want to talk about the tone, because that's the main criticism I see getting brought up all the time. And I think that's the criticism that aged the worst. For those of you who haven't followed Shadow from the start, short version, Shadow was introduced in Sonic Adventure 2 as a character whose entire existence is a question mark. He doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know if his memories are real. The people who created him are dead. The organization that experimented on him is gone. And the one person who seemed to genuinely care about him died 50 years before the game even starts. God damn, dude. Someone give this guy a hug. This is a character with real psychological weight behind it. Not just like a cool rival. It's a character, a being that woke up with no identity and no one left to ask. The weird thing is that when Shadow 05 leans into exactly that, when it gives him a whole game built around those questions with real choices, people call it embarrassing. But when Sonic X Shadow Generations revisits those same themes with the same memories, the same grief, suddenly it's emotional depth. The tone didn't change. Our tolerance for it did. And yes, the one bad word, the motorcycle, the explosions, the aliens. Look, are these execution choices that the game had that were really awkward? Absolutely, 100%. We can all agree on that. But the argument that a dark character dealing with trauma and identity shouldn't have a dark game is mixing up two different critiques. The concept doesn't work, and some of the delivery is rough. Those aren't the same claim. The concept works. Like, it worked enough for Sega to come back 2 decades later and do it again. The delivery just needed refinement. Quick pause. If you're enjoying this video, please consider subscribing. It means a lot to me, and I would really appreciate you. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay, cool. Back to the video. In 2024, Sega released Sonic X Shadow Generations, and a lot of you watched that video on the channel. Thank you. I appreciate you. If you haven't, please go check it out after this video. And the Shadow campaign specifically did something very deliberate. It took everything this game was trying to do and did it properly. Same characters, same trauma, same questions about identity and memory and what Shadow owes to the people who created him. Same emotional core, and people loved it. So I want to ask you a genuine question. What changed? The subject didn't change. Shadow as a character didn't change. The themes didn't change. The difference, and it's an important one, is execution. Tighter controls, cleaner story delivery, a better paced script. The tools caught up to the vision. And here's what that actually tells you. The instinct behind Shadow 05 was correct. Sega knew that Shadow could carry a story built around identity and choice. They just couldn't quite build the game that did it justice. Yet. That's not the story of a bad game. That's the story of a studio who didn't have the proper tools to execute it. And those are very different things. More or less, Shadow the Hedgehog was the rough draft for something that Sega eventually got right. And the fact that they got it right, the fact that Generations even exists and is as good as it is, means the 2005 game deserves some credit for pointing it in the right direction, even if it couldn't get there on its own. So here's where I land. Shadow the Hedgehog is not a great game. I'm not going to tell you that it is. It's obviously very rough. The gunplay is really bad. The mission structure can sometimes, all the time, be really frustrating, and some of the dialogue is super rough in ways that are hard to fully defend, if at all. But the criticisms that stick the most, that the dark tone was pointless, and the branching narrative was just nothing but padding, that it added nothing to the series, I think those actually miss what the game was actually trying to do. It was trying to give a complicated character a game that matched who he was and introduced mechanics that the series kept, and it proved that Shadow could anchor a story. It still sold like over 2 million copies, regardless of how bad people thought it was. People love Shadow. Shadow can anchor a story, and when it's done right, people adore it. They did it twice in the same year, I think. No, yeah, somewhere like that. I don't know. You get it. It pointed towards something that nearly 20 years later, Sega finally delivered on. Shadow was right all along. You just had to wait for all of us to catch up. So, there you have it. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for sticking around for my TED Talk. If you disagree with any of this, and I know a lot of you do, so I can hear you starting the comments, let me know in the comments what I got wrong or what I got right. Like, tell me your takes on this too. And if you want to bring the discussion to somewhere a little bit more chaotic, I guess, you can find me streaming on twitch.tv/ShempOfficial, where I do speedruns and variety content, Sonic probably. So follow me over there. The Discord server is in the description. And please, 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 if you don't mind, visit shemp.store to look at some really cool merch that we worked hard on, and it looks really cool. I don't make a lot on it. I make the prices as cheap as possible for you guys, because just the fact that you guys have be walking around with merch of me means a lot, and I would appreciate it a lot. Code SHEMP10 for 10% off. SHEMP10 for 10% off. Shout out to you guys for constantly coming back every time I upload. I appreciate it. Please do consider checking out more of the content that's not Sonic related, like all the Spyro and video game collecting stuff. It would mean a lot to me, genuinely. So, with that said, I'll see you all in the next video.